Welcome. It is Samira from sacredsoulpractice.com. I'm so glad that you're here. Let me know that you're here, where you're hopping on from, how your day is going. Happy Monday. I wanted to hop on briefly for a live Monday love note. My weekly newsletter goes out every Monday. It's going to go out a little later today because it's been a full on weekend. And this morning was mommy and me time with my little one before we get ready in a little bit for school to start in August. So we are going to just have a heart talk this morning about, make sure all of my devices are working right. Beautiful. About really allowing for grace and compassion for ourselves, right? We can be so hard on ourselves sometimes. And the reality is, if being hard on ourselves worked, we would all have the thing be right, the person that we're trying to become already for most of us, right? Some of you might have this like superpower of being kind to yourself just automatically. And if that's you, yay for you. I love that for you. For the rest of us who has, like a tough inner critic who can be hard on yourself, I certainly have been for so long. I've needed so much support to work through that, to work through the challenges that came from, to work through the traumas that came from. Hi, Nicole. Hi, my love. Many of us have to work through this nagging little voice, right? That really is a part of us who's trying to protect us from getting hurt again or feeling embarrassed or any like uncomfortable feeling. So it's trying to keep us small. In so many ways, the ego is like a little kid who's trying to protect us, but who needs so much self leadership, right? Because it wants to go do its own thing. My mamas and my parents and my caregivers to little ones, you know what I'm saying. When you take your little person to the park or wherever, they so often want to like go and do their own thing, like wherever, whether it's safe or not, whether it's gonna, get them dirty or hurt them, like it doesn't matter. They want to just go and explore and do all the things, which is why they need a loving, supportive caregiver to watch over them, to help them, to support and guide them on their explorations as they go and do all the things. Our brain, our mind, our ego needs that same loving support to help it as it's on its adventure in this life. It needs direction. And so, all of that to say, it is so important to remember as often as you can, right? Every day, really, but as often as you can, if you're in the beginning stages of your self compassion journey, of your self love journey, and really embracing trauma informed care as a lifestyle, it's taking into consideration, right, the things that you have been through. Many of us have been through some things, right? Some of us more than others. And in some ways, it's all really relative. The human experience is a complex one, right? Many of us had challenging um, upbringings. Many of us had challenging experiences that caused trauma. And when we are growing and figuring out things in our life, someone just trying to call, sorry. Um, when we're trying to figure things out, sometimes we have this goal that we're trying to get to, right? So, for example, being the best parent that we can be, being the best person that we can be, transforming ourselves. You might want to be climbing a certain like ladder in your position. You might be trying to finish school or go to school, whatever the big dream is, right? You might be up leveling your career, changing career paths. So many of us are creating our own businesses and projects and like writing books and really going against maybe what we were taught about livelihood. Many of us are creating new ways of being that are different from how we were raised and what we experienced maybe years ago, right? Our society, our culture is shifting and changing. And so, with that, we are coming up against resistance, right? It's just like the human experience when you get ready to make a change, your nervous system can evoke resistance because it feels like, because you are moving out of your comfort zone. And so when you are moving out of your comfort zone, there's like a physical reaction to like, no, like the kid on the playground example, sometimes we feel this like resistance of should I go through the gate or should I not? What's mom going to say? Is this safe? Am I going to get in trouble? What's going to happen? We have this real resistance in our body. Some of it is generational, some of it is cultural, some of it is in our DNA, right? There's so much that comes up for women when we challenge paradigms and when we challenge ways of thinking and ways of being and ways of living our life. Real resistance comes up. And so, what I'm encouraging you for today, for this week, to feel into, to play around with, really leaning into honoring yourself and meeting these edges of yourself with compassion, loads of compassion, right? Like double orders of compassion. If you, um, if you think that compassion is weakness, it's not. And I want to really speak to that for a moment. When we are more compassionate with ourselves, if we come from maybe a more rigid background, or if we come from honestly trauma, right? Sometimes we can think that compassion and being easy on ourselves is weakness, right? And one of my core stories for a long time was, and when I say story, I mean like this belief or this thought that I continue to think, even if it wasn't like, if even if I couldn't hear it, it was like active in my head, in my thoughts, in those quiet still moments when it's just you and you're just thinking, this thought would kind of pop up. It's really important on your healing journey and on your growth journey to really identify what your core stories are, what your core wounds are. Oftentimes they center around abandonment, rejection, trauma, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy, not feeling valuable. When you know what your core things are, it helps you navigate the experience of your life and your internal landscape so much easier. You begin to know where the traps and hazards are in your experience. So when you feel triggered, when you feel resistant, you know where to go, like where to look at. Okay, what feels tender about this? What's the story I'm telling myself about this? So when you think about being more compassionate and more gentle with yourself, even when you're coming up against your stories, it's going to be important to challenge the story with love and with ease and with gentleness. We do that by creating validation, right? And acknowledgement. So when a part of you feels scared, it might sound like it's okay to feel scared. It's okay that I feel scared to do this new thing. It's new. Of course, I would feel scared. There's nothing wrong with me that I feel scared. If you feel like you messed up in some way, said the wrong thing, did the wrong thing, whatever, right? Validate that. Okay, I feel like I messed up. That feels true. Then you can decide how you want to move forward. How do you want to deal with the fact that you feel like you messed up? Is there some forgiveness that needs to happen? Is there some awareness that needs to be looked at, right? For me, for a long time, I would overcommit and then it would be a disaster. And so I had to, one, look at the pattern of the overcommitting. Two, I had to look at what could I actually do and get done, right? When deciding to take things on. And for three, I had to begin to consider why I felt the need to take so much on, right? And four, I had to get really honest about being honest and saying, you know what? As I was working through saying no more, it's still a work in progress, right? I had to begin to say earlier on, more proactively, I thought that I could do this. I don't feel like I can. Here's what I can do. Here's what I could support with, or this is not going to work and I apologize, right? And really speaking to it and having the conversation proactively, right? In integrity, like a leader, right? Would. And so we're all leaders of our own lives and our own experiences. Some of us are leaders in our family, in our work, in our missions, in our communities, right? But every person's a leader in your own life. And when you really get that, you move differently. Some of us are struggling because we're not embracing the leadership in our own life, right? Sometimes it's easy to talk about what other people are not doing, how they're treating me, what's wrong with the world, it's imploding, everything sucks, it's all like a disaster. Some of that is true. And how does that apply to you? What are you doing to shift it? What are you doing to make it better? What are you doing to show up how you want to show up and then radiate that out, right? That becomes a real conversation because what do we have control over? In any given like moment, it's important to look at what do I have control over? And what do I not, right? Often there's a exercise that I give to a lot of my private mentorship clients, and I'll share it with you. On one side of the paper, I didn't create this like originally. I thought of it, but I've heard it before from other people more recently. The reality is, you put on one side of the paper what you're responsible for, what's in your control, and you draw a line, right? So you make a T. On one side, it's you. What are you responsible for? What's in your control? On the other side of the paper, you write what's not in your control. For those of us who believe in a higher power and God, whatever you call it, right? You might put that at the top and say, this is God's list. This is my higher powers list. All these things that I cannot control, I'm putting them in the hands of Source, and I'm going to take my hands off of it and focus on the list that I have control over, right? And so it helps us to, in our mind, to think about and to compartmentalize what can I put my energy toward that I actually have control over? And how can I meet with compassion what is still a work in progress for me? What is still maybe hard for me or not easy or is still a work in progress? What is out of my control? And maybe I feel some kind of way that it is out of my control. How can I bring compassion to that, right? What's out of our control? Other people, what they do, situations that are not in our control, things that are outside of our point of influence, right? Lindsay Paris says everything is influenceable, and it is. It's important to know that we activate our influence with intention, setting clear intentions, and we'll talk more about that. Being in our power, dropping into our heart space, centering, grounding, getting clear. What do I want? Why do I want it in some cases? Is it for my highest and best? Setting that intention that it's for the highest and best good of all involved. And then aligning your energy behind that and not allowing yourself to be distracted by things that don't support that. And so when we really lean into this way of living around compassion, around trauma informed care, meaning we're thinking about the level of safety, the level of empowerment, and the level of choice in any given situation, and making sure that we are in our own adult seat of our life, in our self empowered identity, when we're looking at proactively creating safety for ourselves and others, creating choice for ourselves and others, and creating empowered, action, thoughts, paradigms around for ourselves and for others, right? When you use that as a framework for your life, you really begin to move differently. You really begin to move in a much more self assured and assertive way. And you really also begin to settle into embodiment. Embodiment is a really sexy word right now, and that's wonderful. It's beautiful. And we also can make it very complicated. It's not. It's simply becoming the thing that you believe. It's becoming your practice. It's becoming the belief, the work that you're consciously choosing. It's becoming it. And so it's a practice, it's a cycle. It's like it is a journey. Really, over a lifetime, we evolve, we up level, we change, we grow, we dance with all of it, with all of life, right? Life is the real teacher. Life is the real teacher. And we can decide if we're going to be conscious students of life, learning, growing, and evolving, or if we're going to keep the same outdated programming that's antiquated, that's not working, that's creating all kinds of contrast and drama that we don't like, but we find ourselves consistently in it, right? We need to really activate our personal choice and decide, what am I doing that's creating my reality, my circumstances? If something is out of alignment, how can I bring compassion to it, but also accountability to say, if I want something different, I'm probably going to need to do something different in many cases, or I'm going to have to commit to, if this is the path and I'm just not seeing my result yet, can I commit to being with the discomfort of staying the path, embracing it with compassion and with self leadership and trusting, going within, aligning, grounding, checking in. Is this the right path for me still? Am I going in the right direction? If so, keep going, move through the resistance and the discomfort, and you'll be on the other side sooner than you think. When you are getting to that level in your life, it's going to be important to keep coming back to compassion for yourself, for the situation, looking at where the boundaries are, looking at what needs to change for you to get the result that you want. If we do the same thing over and over again and we're not getting the result that we want, something is out of alignment. The work becomes being with that misalignment, shifting your relationship with it, and then getting clarity on what you want, why you want it, where you're going, and most importantly, make a decision. Decide what you want, decide where you're going, decide why it matters, and decide what is required of you to make this happen. When you do that, you shift your results, you shift your life, you shift your work, you shift your relationship with yourself, with all of life in drastic ways, in extraordinary ways. I would love to hear how your relationship is currently with self compassion. Are you stuck with it? Do you find yourself trying it, but then it doesn't go well? Are you deepening into that practice? Are you shifting your relationship with it? I would love to know how your journey is so far with self compassion. I love that you're here. Thank you so much for being here. I love being with you. I would love if you would hashtag replay if you're on the replay. And if you've received value from this, if you would love to share it with your community or people in your life that you think, I think this person could benefit from what she's saying. This sounds spot on. I would love it if you shared. And I am so grateful for you and for your sharing and for your being here and for your engaging. I will be back later today for day 14, I believe, of our 30-day live experience. It's all in my notes. But I will be back for our 30-day trauma-informed conversation this evening after the princess and I run some errands, take care of some school things, all the things, right? Mom mode is here. It's all good. I love it. And I think that's that for now. I love you. Have an amazing day. I will drop the link to sign up for the newsletter, for the Love Note newsletter that goes out every week. I always receive incredible feedback from the folks who are on that list. I adore them. It's an insiders community. You get first dibs at so many things, pricing, um, programs, just like mentorship, all the things, and a really just beautiful weekly love note from me that I believe will support and nourish you on your journey. So I'll drop the link for you to sign up for that free resource that has incredible value from my heart to yours. Thank you for being here. I love you so much. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you later this evening for our trauma informed conversation. Bye for now.